Namo Pho, Namo Fa, Namo Saint. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Welcome everyone. Someone sent me a question lately about all the practices I've been sharing. Some of these practices very quickly shared, but again the practices which are more important, especially for Sangha leaders, to master and share are the healing breath technique and the egg light or pill light technique. But someone asked me, okay, I kind of feel that I need something to enter meditation. I kind of feel that I need some kind of purification practice before it. And I was going to actually explain what is purification in Buddhist terms and all the kind of purification techniques there are to enter meditation. But at some point I realized that maybe purification in itself isn't really what I should talk about to begin with, to be able to answer that question and allow you to establish a firm practice. There are wonderful purification techniques. Some are very simple. Some are more elaborate and done only in nature. The Mizogi Japanese purification technique under a waterfall, for example, is a wonderful technique. But what they have all in common is that you actually allow yourself at that moment to be totally vulnerable. And you give everything you have to just do one more step. Be it under the waterfall in this very elaborate technique that Mizogi is, or in the simplest forms. You've got to give everything. At this very moment, you kind of make the vow to give everything to the practice right now. And that made me thought that maybe talking about the intention of the practice is more important. And to get at the root of intention, maybe talking about what in Zen is called the great determination, the great intent, was even better. So I wanted to talk about great determination, about the one-pointedness kind of practices that are linked to great determination, about the inner energy involved in this practice. And it isn't easy to actually talk about this topic without falling in some traps. Basically, it isn't easy because you can either stay at the very surface of the subject, or you can dwell too much in the more esoteric stuff and kind of be lost in some pathetic explanation about the nature of great determination or great energy. That's another name for it. And what is inner energy? And great determination or great energy is a subject that is often talked about in retreats. You know, in a Chan, in the Zen life, there are intensive moments of practice, either alone or with few people, and sometimes with a lot of people in big retreats, but in our tradition it's either alone or with very few chosen people generally. And in these times, in these special moments in your practice, you absolutely need to go beyond yourself. You absolutely need to almost go out of your small self. That's the purpose of it. But whatever the practice you're doing, it's very important to keep in mind that our path is the path of attention. So as a general remark, you must remember that where your attention is where qi, inner breath, will circulate the better. I won't go into much details about what qi is or what it isn't. Basically, qi is breath, subtle breath, we could say. Oh, you could say, okay, then I know it. It's when I'm breathing with a lot of awareness, that's a qi practice. Well, yes and no. When all your body is breathing, that's a qi circulation practice. And what I mean with that is all your body. You can think maybe about children. Sometimes children kind of breathe with all their body. They move their hands and their whole body in a kind of tree in the wind kind of way. That's very similar to the roots of the Qigong or Qigong practices. Qigong is just that, moving the whole body, including the arms and in the legs and the whole body on the rhythm of your breath. So your breath and attention to your breath are essential, but it must be linked to your body in movement. Your body, your mind and your breath just as one. But qi circulation isn't my point here. So really don't forget that our central point is to keep attention. To avoid losing ourselves in a kind of auto-hypnotic mode. So pay great attention to your basic attitude and keep the wonder in your eyes, because if you do things mechanically without thinking about it, you will fall inevitably in a kind of auto-hypnotic mode. That's kind of our basic mode, you know. But while you are practicing, during that process, pay great attention to not build up too much tension. The practice of paying attention to the breath, especially with the whole body, breathing with the whole body, is a wonderful practice. And it needs, of course, some intention that you get to put on it. But if you put on too much intention, you will result with tensions in some parts of the body, which won't allow you to actually have a deep breath with all your body. The right way is the way of balance or harmony between tension and not tension. I won't talk too much about yin and yang stuff, but it's exactly that. We could say that this is the whole path, finding a middle way, a balanced way. You know, there is a seed for everything in our mind, but is our inner garden in harmony? Is it a balance wrong? So yeah, I was saying that there is a seed for everything in our minds, but really, in the end, is our inner garden in harmony? That's a real question. And I like the image of the inner garden, because that's what we are working on every day. Is our inner garden a balanced, harmonious one, or is one type of plant winning on all others? You know, gardening is never a total war against nature. It is neither accomplished all at once, or once and for all. You must always work towards harmony. It's a kind of path you walk on. So manifesting that harmony is what we work for. It is the very intent of our path. Otherwise, you could ask, is my life the manifestation of that inner harmony I'm working on? Our life is the manifestation of something anyway. So is it the manifestation of that self-hypnotic kind of state? Or is it the manifestation of my practice? Of course, there is a lot of intent into that. That's what is called manifestation of our true nature with rest. There is a rest of intention into it. That's good. We are not great Zen masters alone in the mountain meditating for 25 to 30 years. That's another stage of the path, and that's not important. Right here and now, what is my practice the manifestation of? You know, traditionally in southern China, they don't sit directly on the floor. They are a bit elevated on a surface called a tan. That tan has, of course, a purpose. Its unofficial purpose or pragmatic purpose is actually to get some air circulating from below, because it's a very hot and humid climate, a climate with a lot of humidity. But the traditional answer to why is that tan is that that's the space where hungry ghosts can have some relief when someone is practicing with sincerity above it. So it's a place for relieving suffering. And that's a wonderful image. Yes, it is a place of art practice. The very place where you sit meditation is a place of art practice. Really not easy. But you don't have to make it your own hell. So sit comfortably and learn to cultivate attention without unnecessary tensions. The harmony that is meant there is an alchemical secret that each seater owns, because each one of us has its very own body, mind, problems, practices, and that harmony establishes through time and self-knowing. You all know that the healing breath meditation and the egg of light meditation are the very first chi or subtle breath techniques that we give, even before actual meditation, actual Zen meditation. It is thus because these are wonderful tools to deepen our knowledge of what it is to breathe with our whole body, or to be a breathing mountain. It's also a lovely image. And to be a breathing mountain is not about tension, but attention. Again, our art is the art of attention. It's the art of knowing ourselves. So there is no accumulation of tensions needed in that path. It is easy to be tensed and sit for a long time, and later you just say, "Oh, my sitting went so well, so quickly." You don't actually get anything from that kind of practice. That is typically the self-hypnotic kind of states that Ming Zen used to warn about, and that are well explained, actually in details, in the last part of the Shurangama Sutra. So pay great attention, because you see, the right fruit of samadhi, of meditation, of attention, call it what you want, is knowledge, a very special kind of knowledge called prajna, a direct knowledge, a direct recognition, an intuitive knowledge if you want. And that is one of the earliest and most shared Buddhist teachings in every tradition. So never forget that our way, our path, is a path of self-knowledge. It is really not about blank and easy meditation. In general, meditation is quite difficult and quite boring. Get used to it. So, just remember that there is soft and there is hard practice. Our general day-to-day practice is soft practice, like water dropping slowly to pierce a stone to do a hole in it, drop by drop. And sometimes we may need hard practice to advance in our inner questioning, like a channeled waterfall piercing a stone at a much greater speed. You see, tension isn't bad per se, and we may need some kind of tension to go beyond tension. There is no problem with that. But these are special times in our practice. We don't always need it. So, for example, in our tradition, we emphasize the fact that a retreat, either alone or in group, is a very special type of practice that must only be practiced when one needs it, generally on the advice of his Zen teacher. We shouldn't jump on every available retreat and wait to be accepted in any retreat just because we wanted it and asked to participate. Indeed, in a group retreat, a good teacher may refuse a demand. Don't take it personally. I will talk a bit more about retreats, and particularly solitary retreats, because a serious practitioner among us asked me to do teaching on it, and it will come in the following days. But then, the Buddhist main art is the art of attention. And Zen is the direct path of the Mahayana school of Buddhism. So, let's say that our meditation school is the school of direct attention, the school of open attention, or even we could say sincere or existential attention. And that, if you don't take it as a mind game, it's a very serious matter. It's an immense skill to be in contact with. And in front of this immense task, this wonderful path of Zen, we must have a great faith. And really, I can't speak of great energy or great determination, which was my original intent, without talking about great faith, and actually without presenting or talking about the wonderful tripod that the three principles of Zen are. So the three principles of Zen. So we must have a great faith as a basis, as a foundation to walk this path. But faith isn't a neutral word in a Western background. What do actually Buddhists mean by that? Actually, different traditions and sects will kind of give you a slightly different take on it, and that's wonderful. The three pillars or three principles or three foundations of Chan, of Zen, is actually a good teaching to get back to from time to time. And we must ask ourselves, what can these mean in our life? That means that in our life we need a great direction, a great confidence, because basically our sense of faith is one of confidence. And look, we need meaning because life is basically very harsh, very difficult. And that is why we say that we must have great faith in our Buddha nature. Because yes, there is suffering out there, but there is also a path. And that's basically things that we can't take too lightly. And that is why we teach people the noble truths, especially to people looking for refuge. Because the noble truths can really save a life, stating that yes, there is shit out there, but there is a way to walk a path out of that shit, out of these difficulties, here and now. In our purely materialistic and somewhat nihilistic societies, it's a bomb. It is a life changer. So, faith, oh, that's my cat. Faith or confidence builds the foundation, the basis to go look into ourselves. We don't need to fear ourselves as much, and we may allow ourselves to investigate ourselves a bit and to know us a bit more as a result. Come on, cat. He is doing the silly cat. Okay. First, it is mainly intellectual, that looking into ourselves, and then kind of becomes more existential through the what-who, the great existential doubt of what the fuck am I here for? Who and what am I in this universe? These questions can change your life. Asking yourself, how does that all fit together? It takes you more, really more than you would believe. It becomes first your worst enemy, and then that existential question becomes your best friend. And at some point you just surrender to the answers that the universe gives you. Every single second, through you and around you. Again, manifestation of harmony. So our path is a path of sincere existential self-questioning. Not a flimsy nihilistic one, but one built on faith, on this nature, this Buddha nature that we all are, share and manifest universally, and that we are individual expressions of. So it is about getting to know better the sky and its clouds, the mind and thoughts, emotions, sensations, intentions. And through any dull practice, honestly can be done. You can harmonize your mind, your body and your breath, and not be stuck in any of these blissful lands. But you need to give yourself totally to the existential questioning, to the point where you go beyond your questions, when you go beyond your answers, and you just open up to this Dogen Zenji of the Soto Zen school, call it the Genjo Koan, the universal open koan right here and now, to the fact that every form is a Sangha and everyone is teaching you the great esoteric sutra here and now, but you don't see and hear it. So the consequence of sincere self-examination is the opening up of these great sutras that we are part of. You see, in the Amitabha Sutra, there is a saying, there is places saying that every tree and every plant and everything is chanting the Dharma. And it is true. The Pure Land is here around us when we can see and hear it. So to keep us on our path, we must first fuel our Dharma life, because life is difficult and we must have a fuel to go further. And that is the sense of great determination. The sense of building a Gong Fu or Kung Fu. That's where the word actually Kung Fu comes from. It means to strive forward the arduous task. Great energy is also a good translation of the intent of that great determination. But not only. That is why in our tradition we like people to follow some form of physical practice. It is the place to forget oneself through our very body, and not through some posture, be it seated or anything else. And in that way yoga, karate, qigong, tai chi, or golf, or football, or anything, it includes the act of moving our lazy ass on the cushion daily. We need a kind of daily discipline. And when you practice any of these... Oh, my cat is just throwing things around. Okay, I'll put him over there. So first we need to move our lazy ass and get ourselves on the cushion every day. And that by itself is not easy. Yet it isn't enough. To do that, we must be bending our old tendency, untying the knots, as it is said in the Shurangama Sutra. It is a long process of brutal, really brutal self-honesty. More generally, our mental attitude and practice really is what we are focusing on. It is like a laboratory. But the practice room where you sit daily isn't enough. We must strive to be good fathers, husbands, workers, and do what must be done every day. Because the expression of our nature is manifested through our actions. Again, Zen is the direct path of Mahayana, and we practice the Eightfold Path in a direct way, from right view to right practice, because Zen is the way of action. There is a small booklet Mingzen did about just that. And the energy accumulated, the gut if you want, the spirit if you want, is the actual manifestation of that great determination. And being... So, for some reasons I can't explain, it cut again, so I've got to do another part, and this time I'm outside. So, I was saying that the energy accumulated, the gut if you want, or the spirit if you want, accumulated to practice is the actual manifestation of that great determination. But pay attention, because we can be very determined at one time, and it can be a wonderful thing, but it is still clinging to a changing idea. And if we don't succeed as well as we expected, we can become disappointed of ourselves. Oh, there is a car passing by. And when we are disappointed of ourselves, there is no more determination at all. That is why the actual secret is daily practice, daily struggling with a one-pointed determination, a daily letting go of ourselves, of our likes and dislikes. Okay, some young people on a motor doing crazy stuff. Anyway, so it is about daily letting go of our likes and dislikes through the actual submission. And that's a great word, but it is important to submit yourself to a certain kind of discipline. Just like a chi circulation practice launches the machine of inner breath and clears the inner channels and everything. The daily practice we can establish is the actual manifestation that the machine is working. And the fuel of the machine is that actual energy. That is the manifestation of our inner great determination. It's wonderful because generally in the place where I am, it's very quiet. And today there are so much noises anyway. So, yet, having the direction and the confidence on one hand and the determination and energy on the other isn't enough per se. There are always questions. What kind of discipline should we follow? What kind of direction? What meaning do we choose to have confidence in, to put our faith in? And that is why Buddha nature is so important in the Zen path. Our path is about seeing our Buddha nature. And what we must have faith in is our actual Buddha nature that we are individual expressions of. But we need responsibility. It is great to have a direction, to have confidence. It is great to have determination and energy, but to do what? Responsibility in this path is finding the precepts that we take, in the vows that we take and we renew. It is a lifetime commitment to the way of action, to the simple and humble one, the way of Zen. So these are the three principles. You could say, oh, you actually didn't talk about great doubt. I'm in a tunnel right now, so sound may be a bit different. Anyway, great doubt. I actually talked about this a bit when I talk about Huatu in this talk. First, I talk about questioning, and you could say that great doubt is great questioning. First, it is very intellectual. Then it becomes existential. What the fuck am I doing here? First, it is kind of, when you're serious about it, it is your worst enemy. Because asking yourself constantly, what the heck, is a life-changing thing. And it's very uncomfortable. And after some time, it becomes your best friend. But we will talk in much details about Huatu and doubt. Like Han Shan and Shu Yun practiced it, I practice it and share it. Before that, I will do a small talk on retreats, and especially on solitary retreats. And after that, we will begin the study of recitation in the Chan Zen Pure Land tradition through the 48 methods to Nianfo. I hope you can hear me, just so noisy. It's incredible. So through the 48 methods to Nianfo, known by the English translation of the Vietnamese Sangha, of a Vietnamese Sangha who called, I don't know why actually, it's a very bad thing, but who call it Taming the Monkey Mind. And you will see that there is so much more than Taming the Monkey Mind. We will actually already begin studying Huatu from that text. And there is all the parts of the practice, from recitation to huatu, or questioning if you want, to just listening, to just sitting. Every kind of Zen practice is included on that wonderful text, but I will go into it in great details next time. So, have a wonderful day. Amitofo, Amitofo, Amitofo.